Welcome back. 2 years, 2 search warrants to arrest. In November, we told you about a large bust of a labor trafficking operation involving drugs right here in Omaha. It led to some massive drug seizures. Chronicle's Madison Perales has this story.
What started as a Douglas County Special Operations Group in plain clothes looking into drugs in 2023 led to a multi-year investigation which led to an arrest in connection with a larger scale organization. By January 2024, Douglas County Sheriff's Office arrested 51-year-old Jason Pemberton. What was found?
44 pounds of methamphetamine, 131 grams of MDMA, and a smaller amount of psilocybin mushrooms.
Douglas County Sheriff Aaron Hansen says that amount of meth equates to tens of thousands of doses and valuing anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million.
It is a significant seizure on the part of the DCSO Special Operations Group.
Investigators didn't stop there.
They wanted to continue to work up the food chain.
By May 2025, investigators say they found Pemberton's supplier.
Miguel Salazar Zuniga had direct connections with a Mexican drug trafficking cartel from Mexico.
Law enforcement executed yet another search warrant at Salazar Zuniga's suspected operations house near 34th and Fort. To their surprise,
that search warrant revealed not only a drug trafficking organization, but also a human trafficking organization.
10 people were rescued right here in this home. Half of them were women, the other half men, and a mix of Mexican and Colombian nationals. They were trafficked to work in construction and cleaning companies. Salazar Zuniga was in the home when law enforcement came in, and the sheriff says he used his 5-year-old child as a human shield.
It should be a nightmare for a parent. It's a nightmare for a law enforcement officer. And I think it's just another indicator of the depths that these drug cartel connected individuals will go, their lack of regard for human life.
In a matter of minutes, Zuniga surrendered himself to law enforcement, and Hansen says the child was safely returned to his mother.
I'm sure that the folks living around 34th and Fort had no idea that there could be a drug cartel organization and a human trafficking organization occurring right next door to them.
He says when someone sees suspicious activity coming from a house like this, it's worth reporting to law enforcement, even if you're wrong.
Because the time that you are correct, you could save someone from indentured servitude at the hands of a drug cartel organization.
Hansen says things to look out for in homes like this one is movement. Out-of-state cars coming in and out at strange hours, individuals not socializing with their neighbors, or people constantly moving in and moving out.
Those things are not normal, especially in a residential neighborhood like this. It should raise an eyebrow.
Adding virtually every tip, especially clear ones, are followed up by law enforcement.
Next time, it could be an ISIS organization, it could be a terrorist organization, or a white supremacy organization with plans to do harm to someone in our community.
He encourages victims of labor trafficking to call too, if they can.
Law enforcement will respond regardless of your citizenship status, and we will try to make you safe and the people around you safe.
Now, Special Agent Gillespie, I know this is just one of the areas you're concerned about. How often do you see drug trafficking and human trafficking linked together?
All the time. So, as I mentioned before, the cartels, they are in the business of making money, lining their pockets with profits at any cost. That's why they're peddling the most deadly drug that we've ever faced in our nation's history, fentanyl. And they're willing to traffic humans. They're willing to traffic firearms as well. They're willing to extort and kidnap, everything under the sun. And so, yes, the cartels are involved in all of that dirty business, and that's why the whole of government approach is what's necessary to take them down.
You just said that key word a lot of people have heard over the last decade, fentanyl. Is it getting any better?
It is. We have had progress, and I'm not going to say wins because we're not there yet. There's a lot of work to be done. We were close to 80,000 fentanyl-related deaths in our country. That number is now down to 50,000. It's progress. It's not victory. It's not a win. It's progress. But we're moving in the right direction. 76% of the drugs that we tested in the DEA had a lethal dose of fentanyl 2 years ago. Fast forward to today, that's down to 29%. That's due to the pressure that the DEA is applying to the global supply chain, those precursor chemicals that are coming from China, hindering the ability of the cartels to produce and manufacture the fentanyl in Mexico and then get it up here. So these are positive effects, but all that means is we're going to press harder. There's so much work to be done. 50,000 lives lost, that's unacceptable. Here in the state of Nebraska, we're about 140 on an annual basis. About half of those involve fentanyl. It's too many. There's a lot of work to be done.
So you are putting pressure on the chemical manufacturers. How are you seeing cartels change what they do?
Well, the cartels are always evolving. They're always changing. And that's one aspect of some of the changes that they're making. Initially, as we work with China and the Chinese government, they shift those precursor shipments from China to India, and they work that way. It's a difficult process. A lot of those precursor chemicals, they're legal. They're utilized to make legitimate pharmaceutical grade drugs here in America. And so finding those illicit shipments is a difficult process. But we have investigations that target just that. And so we hit it from all angles. We have offices in more than 90 foreign countries. And so we utilize those relationships to apply pressure, to uncover and discover and illuminate these distribution networks.
Here in Omaha, we're hearing a lot about synthetic drugs, K2, spice. What are you seeing when it comes to that?
It's horrible. And in the case of fentanyl, incredibly potent. So 2 milligrams is a lethal dose of fentanyl. 2 milligrams is just the amount of granules that would fit on the tip of a pencil. So imagine that being the potential lethal dose. And the cartels who are manufacturing these pills and powders with wooden spoons and metal bowls on a kitchen counter, there are no quality controls. And so it's very easy to have less than 2 milligrams or way more than 2 milligrams. And so, if it can give people a false sense of security if they ingest one pill and think, oh, I can survive this, I can tolerate this, the very next pill could kill them almost instantly. It'll shut down the respiratory system and it's over.
When you see fentanyl deaths or fentanyl users, are you typically finding habitual drug users? Or is this the recreational one person wanted to try it one time?
It's all across the spectrum. And we see habitual opioid users who are in the throes of an opioid use disorder. And we have the other side of things where it's a high school teenager who's looking to experiment, as many teenagers do. And the problem with fentanyl, though, that we haven't had in the past is that one time will kill you. And there is no tolerance for experimentation, not anymore. And it's not just fentanyl itself, but fentanyl is being laced into all the other illicit drugs: heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana. So that's an important message that we have to get out there to the listeners, is that it's not just those powders, it's not just those pills. Fentanyl has permeated all of the illicit drugs, and it's being pressed into pills, it's being pressed into powders that are colorful, they have designer labels, and it's very deceiving, and it's being marketed to our youth.
What's the next step the DEA needs to take to help fight drug trafficking?
Well, we've started off just this month in a really hard push enforcement-wise called Fentanyl Free America. Fentanyl Free America is going to be ongoing, but for that first initial days, we're pushing really hard on enforcement. And we're going to show some pretty impressive statistics. We were making a lot of arrests and, importantly, getting a lot of that fentanyl out of the communities and out of the streets before it gets into the hands of our kids. So that's number one, enforcement. That is a recommitment to the American public to protect them from these synthetic opioids, particularly fentanyl. The other aspect of it is that we have to acknowledge that we can't fix this problem ourselves. We have to get the public educated. We have to make them aware of what fentanyl is and why it's so dangerous. And that means getting out into the communities, getting out into the schools, having these conversations with families, with school boards, parent-teacher associations about the dangers of fentanyl and why we need to talk about it.
Special Agent Gillespie, thank you so much. We got one more segment for you. Still ahead, the Drug Take Back Initiative and how you can make sure your prescriptions don't fall into the wrong hands. First, a reminder that your comments are an important part of this show. If you want to be heard, email those comments to news@ketv.com. We love hearing from you. We'll be right back.